think these are useful questions for you to consider as a supervisee or as a supervisor yourself. And there's just 6 questions, and I ask my students to consider them. And the first one is, when you're approaching a supervisor, or if you're already in supervision, does your supervisor hold a supervision qualification? And the majority of people who say to me, I wouldn't know, I've never asked. So we go back to that initial first session of shopping round for a new supervisor, that, the supervisee has a responsibility to get what they need to ask most pertinent questions. What model or models of supervision does your supervisor offer? Do you know? Does she or he keep updated with current thinking? And how is this done? Is it through reading? Is it through CPD workshops, attending conferences, watching films and doing a review, case studies, whatever? Is the ethical framework or respective codes of practice of another professional body that you may adhere to, is it an implicit part of your supervision relationship? Because an awful lot, it shouldn't be like the highway code where it's on the shelf somewhere. It should be a working document that's available in every supervision session. Because if I'm stuck in supervision with a supervisee, I'll immediately say, shall we look at the ethical framework and see? And see, because, we're going round in circles. I'm wondering, it should be a living document. That's what it's for. And then we get to know it. Can your supervisor work with different theoretical modalities? It's crucially important. You don't have to be trained in them all, but at least have some knowledge and understanding of the concepts. Because a supervisee, especially if they're working across different, like a portfolio of work, they may be doing long-term therapy one day, they may be in a GP practice another day doing brief therapy, they may be working in a specific specialised agency setting. We need to understand what modalities best fit and what the counsellor is employed to offer. How informed is your supervisor on the accredited registration and the current work of BACP or other professional bodies? How informed is your supervisor on the current legal system and its relevance to the profession? Because that is big. This is where the litigation comes in. How informed is your supervisor on respective acts that have been, passed with statute? Human Rights, Equal Ops, DDA, Children Act, Education Act. There's about 258 acts, I think, currently. Okay. I would not expect a supervisor to be able to quote chapter and verse.
On 258 acts, yes.
But at least know where they could access those acts for their respective supervisees' context of work, because that is crucial. How informed is your supervisor on record keeping, note taking, and dealing with those wretched solicitors' letters that we get asking for notes? Dealing with the police, I don't know. I mean, I don't believe it just happens to me, but I get quite a lot of calls from the police asking for notes, and subpoena from court. We have to be aware of all these things, and I think this has been happening a lot in particularly in America, but it's now here, and it's happening, and we need to be mindful of it. And of course, we need to be mindful of it. How informed is your supervisor on current professional bodies' complaint procedures, and on all the respective accreditation schemes? Because supervisees may want the support, because the supervisor report in any accreditation scheme carries a lot of weight. So we need to be mindful of that. And now, in a very important question, how informed is your supervisor on organisational cultures? Statutory and non-statutory. and of course the voluntary sectors. And the final one is, how informed is your supervisor on dealing with ethical dilemmas?